The journey is conversations with ordinary people about stories of transformation and how we may have had setbacks in our life and how we persevered through those, how we've learned from those obstacles, and how they've maybe helped us on our path today. Well, welcome to The Journey. My name is Kevin Polkey, and I am the host of The Journey. And today we have a special guest with us, actually a returning guest. Nick Votava has been with us a couple times on The Journey, and he is he and his partner Elliot. And his wife Mary and a handful of other people have really been making an impact in the Rockford area, working with youth in developing social emotional learning through a unique way of using movement, weightlifting, and yoga. So, Nick, tell us a little bit about, well, before we jump into Rockford Barbell, tell us a little bit about yourself. What do you do for fun when you have an opportunity for fun?
Sure. Thanks for having me again, Kevin. Always happy to, come on here and talk with you. But yeah, so I'm Nick. What I like to do for fun is a lot of movement, a lot of physical activity, and my wife and I, Mary, we enjoy going hiking and camping and taking trips when we can. Riding bikes and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, we founded Rockford Barbell in 2019 with the goal of bringing movement to kids to work on social emotional skills. So we run after school programs for kids and some school-based programs as well. But we, yeah, actively use weightlifting and yoga as practices to help kids develop relationships with one another, as well as to help with their emotions and their thinking through movement.
Yeah, and what are some I mean, starting in 2019, 6 years ago, and as we've talked, that was, right before the pandemic, and then obviously, that changed some things up, and then, I think students are still struggling with what that disruption was and how it kind of propelled them into a different way of socializing and interacting. Some people bounce back pretty well, and others maybe not so well. And
Mhm.
so, what things have you seen um, in the last 6 years regarding students' response to using Rockford Barbell services? So yeah, what have you noticed?
A couple things. Yeah, definitely like an increase in anxiety for some kids. Some kids just having troubles just engaging with activities, whether that be school or participating in things at school. Just a lot of kids that come to us just haven't been able to engage with sports or haven't been able to engage in other activities, school plays, and even band or something like that. So yeah, just getting kids more comfortable interacting together over an activity, I think, is kind of a natural place to help kids kind of connect with one another. I know for me personally, and yeah, for Elliot and Mary, we all have experienced the benefits of moving with other people. So I did sports growing up as a kid, but then as an adult, just kind of fell off of it. Going to college, went to University of Iowa, a bigger school, wasn't as connected to a team or just a regular group. But then came back after college and just found a group of people that we used to work out with, or we still work out every morning together. And just that community aspect. Involving this movement practice, very beneficial in our own lives, beneficial for my own mental health, physical health, but just wanted to put that in the hands of kids, so that they can experience those benefits too.
So Nick, yeah, tell us a little bit from your perspective, maybe your own experience. You've been lifting weights for many years, and obviously you could do this by yourself. You could go down, go to a gym and work out solo, or have a home gym and work out solo. What for you has been your experience, the benefit of working out with a community? Yeah, tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. It's been everything for me. So I moved back right after college. Most of my friends had moved away. They'd gone to their own separate colleges. And yeah, just really lacked friends. Lacked just like a community of young people that I could hang out with. Fortunately, met some kind of like-minded folks. I met my wife at a gym. So and she's in education. Elliot, who I run the gym with, he is also in education. So we had some like common interests, but it all was facilitated through working out every day. I think kind of challenging ourselves physically, going through those experiences, day in and day out together. There's just kind of a natural connection with that, going like challenging ourselves physically, and then being able to kind of bond over those experiences over time, um, and then having those side conversations of what we care about, what our values are, over time of wanting to give back to community, wanting to help kids, finding those people, over this practice together.
Okay. So you use the word challenge a couple times and being able to challenge. And I think, it seems, for a lot of individuals, maybe young and old, almost like intentionally choosing to challenge yourself seems almost like counterintuitive. It's like, well, no, I want things to be easier. I don't want them to be challenging. I want, challenging means that I don't know how to do something or I might fail at it. Why do you think challenging yourself has been important for you and but also important for others?
I mean, life is challenging in its own right. So just learning how to better manage that. I think life can be hard in so many ways. I think so for me, physically challenging myself makes those other things day to day just a little bit more tolerable. Some days, obviously, I still have hard days, but like doing movement, building up my tolerance for some challenging things allows me to kind of go through my day and just feel a little more calm, feel a little more, able and capable of dealing with what comes throughout the day.
Well, it is interesting, Ray, as we talk about intentionally choosing to challenge ourselves, and you said that so you've noticed your observation is that more individuals have been uh, expressing being anxious, and my observation is that I think similar to the idea of if someone has cancer, simple sugars cancer will feed on that simple sugars to grow. And I think anxiety feeds on avoidance.
Hmm.
And if I think there's a natural tendency if something is hard or something is scary or difficult, our tendency is to want to avoid that thing. But the problem is that maybe it's something that can't be avoided. And it's, like if you're a young person and you're, want to avoid school because you're anxious about school or social situations, the avoidance of it is not going to long-term help. It's maybe temporarily, but the next time you have to do something socially or go to school or whatever it may be, that anxiety is going to be even greater. And so I agree. I think you're right. Life is um it can be at times a little bit easier, a little bit smoother, but more times than not, just the nature aspect, the natural aspect of life is that it's going to get tough, and there's going to be tough situations that occur, and avoidance isn't great preparation for when life gets tough.
Yeah. Yeah, completely agree. And I think I don't always want to work out every day. I don't always want to. We all sometimes face troubles socializing, or we've just socialized a lot, and we feel like, oh man, I kind of want to be by myself. But often, I go into the gym, I'm greeted by these people, and my mood improves. The anxiety, it's there in the beginning, or it's like my avoidance is wanting to kick in, but if you can push through just a little bit, that's what helps kind of move you through that state into a better situation. So for me, kind of like challenging my thinking in that way and saying, I don't want to go today, or I don't want to interact in this way. Pushing through that, that's just a thought, pushing through it and taking some action and saying, I'm going to do it anyway. For me, just helps me move through that a little bit quicker. And then it's not as extreme next time I, try it again.
Well, and I think I think sometimes, the little tricks or hacks that we have to do with ourselves, right? I don't feel like lifting today, but if I can just get to the gym, I know, more times than not, if I get to the gym, then uh, then I'll be greeted by somebody. I'll gain their energy and momentum. Not all of us will be in the same mental or emotional space at the same time, and so you know of course I want to be around my friends. So then that's an easier step sometimes. Like I know for me, my working out situation's a little bit different, but I know that I just need, if I can just, walk those 13 steps downstairs, and just get on the bike or just get started. Usually by just starting, we can get some momentum from there.
I had so growing up, I did a lot of wrestling and football and just feeling sore. I think I felt sore a lot growing up as a kid. And I was always like, oh man, we got practice again this afternoon. But once you start warming up, you don't recognize the soreness, after. So it's like your body is telling you one thing, but then you start the process, start going again, and really your mind is more at ease. You're not like so resistant, and then your body also, goes along with it. So I think sometimes, yeah, our thinking can kind of get in the way of our action sometimes.
Yeah. Well, and I think, from an aspect, I know that when I was either a personal trainer, way back when I was bodybuilding or an after bodybuilding, and then later as a strength conditioning coach for a couple school districts, um, I think it was important for me as a coach that I had experienced the workouts, not necessarily as that was the reason why I could teach or coach someone else, but I had experienced the difficulty of a movement. I experienced the difficulty of the learning curve with a movement, and I think it allowed me to, um, see those little nuances that I needed, that I could see in one of my athletes that I was coaching. That may be the same, the same thing that may have worked with me to learn the sequence aspect of the movement, then maybe I could see that also with them when I was coaching them if they were having difficulty.
Yeah, absolutely. I think another part to this too is I work with kids. We spend all this time with kids, and we're always asking kids to challenge themselves in a different way, whether it be challenging them to pay attention to a lesson or challenging them to talk to somebody they never talked to before. I think like as an adult asking or challenging people, and I'm a social worker as well, so challenging, adults to start new habits or whatever it be. It's important that we challenge ourselves too. If we're going to ask from others to do these difficult things, I think part of that is a willingness to do difficult things yourself. And so for me, it's important that I do challenge myself in my own way so that I can ask that of the people I work with as well.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. So tell us a little bit, switching back to Rockford Barbell.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, tell us a little bit about, well, one, tell us the core of Rockford Barbell is your after school program. And so why don't you tell us a little bit about how that is structured, and then we'll kind of move on to the other programming.
Sure. So yeah, we have two after school programs for kids. These are completely free programs for kids 10 to 18. And there's two separate programs. So one's a weightlifting program. It runs 3 days a week. And the overarching goal of these programs is to build social emotional skills using movement. So we're not just weightlifting the whole time in that class, but we do little lessons on social emotional topics. So we work on relationship skills, or we might talk about regulation or self-management. And then kids work together in groups, learning movements of weightlifting. But then they're interacting the whole time. So they're helping each other change weights. They're helping each other just with various aspects of the program. And then yoga is similar. It's 2 days a week, and kids are using movements found in yoga practice, but doing some other things, doing some discussions and creative expressions. They're writing some things down. They're learning different aspects of meditation. So all these kind of components within the context of a community. And yeah, using this movement practice to help kids bond with each other as well as make connections with positive adults.
And so I know that when we've talked before, the way you have a new facility that you've been in since last winter,
Yep.
um, and that and you just recently had a ribbon cutting for that, and the yoga though that isn't at Rockford Barbell. That's been at a couple different locations, right?
Yep. So yeah, our current session right now is held at Anderson Gardens. So we're able to do some partnerships with both them, and then we partner with the Rockford Park District, and we've used Nicholas Conservatory, as well as a couple of yoga studios around town. So yeah, depending on the time of year, we get to use these different spaces and show some kids some different experiences, as well as incorporate nature a bit in our programs, which is great. When the weather is nice, just to be able out in the gardens, we do some kind of mindful walks. We tune into our senses and just really get kids to kind of experience the benefits of nature as well.
Perfect. And you talked about speaking of that for a moment, I know 2 years ago, I think it was, yeah, two years ago, I did a deeper dive into what the Surgeon General at the time had talked about the youth mental health crisis and the impact of social media specifically, and the intense increase of screen time for young adults and youth. And one of the things that they had noticed in that research, as I was doing a deeper dive into a book called The Anxious Generation, as well as what some of the research the Surgeon General had done, is that more and more youth that had a high correlation of screen time or virtual time, digital time, um, they they weren't socializing in person, they weren't playing in person, and they weren't being outside in nature. And that had, as their virtual world had increased, their natural in-person world had dramatically decreased, and so they were seeing some of the detriments of or impact of that. So I think, not only are you doing things in person, not only are you doing things with movement and a structured form of, we could say, play, but with the yoga, you're also introducing them to maybe environments that they wouldn't necessarily naturally do now because of a propensity toward a screen time.
Yeah, definitely. I think, yeah, with the screens, there's nothing inherently wrong with it, but the overuse of it, really limits kids in their natural skill building. Just when it comes to exploring interests and hobbies and their connection with others. Is obviously, if we're on screens more, we're doing less with people in person. So yeah, those kind of missed opportunities with the increase in screen time, are something that we have to be conscious of and have to try and boost up for kids. I mean, we've lived many, many, many years without screens, and only in this recent, couple decades has this become a thing. But getting back to some of the more natural ways that we've always kind of interact with one another and interacted with the world, I think are healthy for people in general.
Yeah, no, I agree, and to your point, I agree. I don't think there's any inherently anything wrong with social media or with gaming or anything like that. I mean, obviously, this is how we get out the journey, right? In one form through YouTube, as well as other forms of platforms for podcasts. We use the technology and the benefits of that technology to get out these messages. Similar to the Shatter Our Silence almost entirely everything that we do for Shatter Our Silence regarding branding is almost all done through social media. And so, yes, I agree with you. It's not in itself, I don't think it's a bad thing. It's just the overuse or the imbalance of it is where we start seeing the more the detriment of it.
Yeah, and I think it's different for kids versus adults too. I think kids are just they're just more vulnerable. They're young. They don't have their full brains developed. And so knowing how to set limits for themselves and those sorts of things can be challenging. As a kid, you're on something that's designed to keep you engaged. I think for a kid, it can be a little more challenging to know, when to turn that off versus an adult. We have a little bit more decision making ability, and so we have a little bit more, a little easier time maybe to shut that off, and do something else.
Sure, absolutely. And I think like many things, right? And we know that if, I think a year ago we had Nathan Sill on the journey, and he talked about the overtraining and not allowing his body to rest, led to him having a back injury, and then the surgery to correct the back injury caused him to be paralyzed. And he had to work back through that being paralyzed. And so even a good thing, like we're talking with Rockford Barbell, is the idea of weightlifting. Even a good thing can end up being, can be overused, misused, and then have negative side effects of that. So I do think it's like you said, this idea of how do we challenge ourselves, but also how do we balance it with, uh, with the movement, with the yoga, with the stretching, with with resting and making sure we have proper nutrition as well. So Nick, tell us a little bit. I know that in the past year, specifically the past 12 months or so, Rockford Barbell, really took a huge leap, right? And you went from primarily it was you and Elliot and Mary doing the bulk of the work, and now you've expanded. And tell us a little bit of how did that come about? Where were you able to expand, and what services have you been able to expand with?
Yeah, sure. So a couple things. We were fortunate enough to receive some Illinois state funding. So we were able to hire some part-time staff to run to in addition to us running classes, we have some other professionals to help us run classes. All of our part-time staff are educators or mental health professionals. Really, it was important to us to kind of keep with that. That's what we've been built on as teachers and mental health professionals, and just their connection with kids and working with families. We wanted that to be kind of core of who our staff are. Um, but with that, so with being able to add some staffing, some coverage for some after school classes, we're looking this year where we're going to be able to offer some in school programming. So we have a kind of a mobile unit for our weightlifting equipment. So we're able to actually take equipment into schools. We're doing it with a middle school and an elementary school, and run programming a couple days a week, similar to our model where we're using movement to develop social emotional skills. Our schools do a lot to help build social emotional skills for kids, but there's always just kind of like fresh ideas or new ways that we can integrate that. So I think we're able to offer kind of some unique programming that's engaging and developmentally appropriate for kids, in a way that they can kind of engage with this a little bit differently.
Well, Nick, just with what you just said, a couple things. I know that when I sit with meetings regarding what are the needs of the community, different age groups, and then what are the barriers to getting that assistance. I obviously cost can be a barrier or is a barrier at times. Transportation is also typically a barrier. Being able to have professionals that can engage with the population, or a lot of times those three things are some of the main barriers that we talk about of how for people that need it the most, could benefit from it the most. Um, how do we eliminate, or how do we, take those barriers down? And like you just said, through the state and local funding, you and Elliot have been able to um, uh, move through some of those barriers that that could interfere with students and their families being part of Rockford Barbell. And so I give you guys a lot of credit for being creative and innovative and persistent. I know it isn't always easy with the grant writing and learning the nuances of that. You guys have done a good job with that, and I know that's a big part of why you've been able to continue growing and developing, and even having a new facility.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. We've been very blessed, very fortunate. We've had a lot of support from the community and from partners, and I these services are just they're wanted. I think a lot of principals and teachers are looking for other ways that we can engage youth. Our after school programs are very engaging. We have a lot of kids that sign up and do it every day. So yeah, just looking to get to kids where they're at. Kids are in school during the day. We want to help kids in school and after school. We want to help kids all the time. And like you're saying, a lot of families, a lot of kids face a lot of barriers in our community. So we're always, even with our after school program, trying to find ways that we can make this, barrier free or as least as possible, just so that we can maximize who we're able to serve. And I think going to schools is the next logical step, that being where the kids are at. And so, yeah, we're excited just to be able to be in there and help kids, throughout the day. And if they really like it, they can come after school for some more. So, yeah, we're excited about that.
Yes. Well, and like as we talked last year, and going through the opportunities that you've had with some local schools, and then the commitment this year of your two main schools that you're going to be focusing on, and then building on that, I think it's going to be a pretty exciting new school year, and I'm looking forward to hearing how you guys do. And I know that there's always offers that end up coming up throughout the school year, and so it'll be a matter of being able to discern what's the right direction for Rockford Barbell. But with the support that you've been getting throughout the community with some of your fundraising, as well as the grant writing and donations, I know that you guys are doing really well. One other thing I want to kind of have you touch on, Rockford Barbell is really about utilizing movement, either weightlifting movement or yoga, to teach uh, social emotional skills, and being able to help challenge them to work through different barriers and develop different skills with interacting with people and emotional regulation. But then there is an element for individuals who may want to understand the sport of weightlifting, and the sport of Olympic lifting. Yeah, tell us a little bit about that. I know that's not the primary piece of the program, but it is a piece of it, and you have something exciting coming up in January as well.
Yeah, so every year we are a USAW, a USA Weightlifting Club, as well as being a nonprofit gym. But we host a meet every single year. So in January we will be hosting a meet as well. And yeah, it's just a cool opportunity. A lot of our kids, they do this stuff, but there is a whole competitive side. This is a sport that can be done at the highest level in the Olympics. So yeah, we encourage our kids to participate in that. We've taken our kids to a couple, or a select number of kids to a couple like local meets in the suburbs and in some areas. But yeah, that just offers a different side. It offers a different dynamic for kids. There's still, the nerves of competition to talk through, and some different like learning that the kids get to experience. But then they get to see the wider weightlifting community. So with our meet, there's adults that lift in it too, and there's people older than me, and there's all the way down to 10-year-old kids that are lifting. So for them just to see that this could be a lifelong thing, that there's this larger community that they could attach themselves to, I just think is a good bridge, a good opportunity for them to just be encouraged and continue it. This year, yeah, we're hoping to bring out someone special for our meet. So we're in contact with a former Olympian named Kendrick Ferris. So it'd just be cool, yeah. These opportunities to be able to have certain individuals come out and support our kids and support our mission here. It's unbelievable.
Very nice. Very nice. Well, Nick, as we get ready to wrap up, was there anything that you would, from any of the listeners that are hearing, anything that you would want to share with them about someone who may be interested themselves, as an adult getting involved in lifting, not necessarily, at Rockford Barbell, but just in general, or if they know somebody in their family, one of their own children or a grandson or granddaughter, niece, nephew. Yeah, any last words you'd want to share with them?
I mean, for anyone local, stop by. We're located downtown Rockford, 208 Kishwaukee, so we'd love to have you come through and give you a tour of our place, kind of show you what we have going on. But yeah, check out our website, rockfordbarbell.com or rockfordbarbell.org. Um, lots of resources on there. We push out a kind of a newsletter that you can sign up for that kind of outlines some benefits that we see through doing a practice like weightlifting or yoga. But yeah, lots of information out there. We'd love to chat with anyone interested.
Perfect. Well, Nick, as always, I appreciate you being here, and I know in a week or so, I'm going to have Mary on the show, and she's going to be talking about specifically the yoga program and what she's experienced with that and what she's observed as well. And so I'm excited about that, and in a week or so. And so, Nick, as always, I appreciate knowing you and appreciate knowing what you and Elliot and Mary are doing within our community.
Awesome. Likewise, Kevin. Thank you for having me.
And anyone who may be interested or spark any level of interest at all, I would highly encourage you to take Nick up on the idea of going and visiting Rockford Barbell .com or .org, or go and visit them at their facility. Probably maybe reach out ahead of time to make sure they're there, because if they're not there, they're probably doing the school program. But definitely reach out to them, because you never know what little thing might be spark a young person's life to change the trajectory of where they're going. As always, thank you for being here, and I look forward to being with you next week.